The Final Furlong Podcast is proudly brought to you by Jeff Banks Bet. Get up to £500 refunded as real money for new Jeff Banks online accounts after your first month of betting. Use promo code FFP500 at jeffbanks.bet.
Welcome to our Day 2 preview of Cheltenham 2025. I'm Emmet Kennedy. I'm joined by George Gorman, Oddscheckers, Liam Firkin, Tipstar winner from Racing TV. Do we have to put an asterisk on that because you shared it, Liam? Or can we just say Tipstar winner?
Absolutely not. Yeah, just Tipstar on this part.
Tipstar winner and legend Liam Firkin. And also Adam Mills is back on the show from TPD. Adam just did a really good video breaking down Kopek Demi, by the way. Subscribe to Adam's YouTube channel if you haven't seen it already. And we gotta give a big shout out to Liam because he got a lot of stick. But Liam told you this horse was gonna win in March. And Regent Stroll won in March. Well done, Liam. Take a bounce on. Admittedly, it wasn't quite the race you had in mind, but it doesn't matter. He won in March. One for the tracker.
I'll take it. Thanks.
Good man, Liam. It's great to have your insight. Great to have George and Adam here as well. Let's get stuck into the opening race of Day 2, where we're going to see the clash of Britain and Ireland. The new line for Britain, Dan Skelton. The final demand for Willie Mullins. We've got the yellow clay in there for Ireland. 6 Mile Bridge is no back number either. It's a really, really intriguing renewal, and Jeff Banks Bet is going 6-4 about the Shallow Hurdle winner of the new line. It's 7-4 about Final Demand. The Yellow Clay 11-2, Potter's Charm 14-1, 6 Mile Bridge is the same price, and pretty much whatever price you want about the rest of them. Let's start with Adam Mills. Your thoughts on the Turners?
I would be in the new line camp just about on this ground. They've been flip-flopping favourites all week long. I think the market is exactly right. Those two are probably £7 clear of the rest. I could sort of see the angle for backing the yellow clay each way when the ground was soft, but now the ground is good. I can't really have it. I think the new line's got too much speed, but equally I'm full of respect for Final Demand. I don't normally in this kind of race where you got so much at the head of the market, I try and play it each way, but I don't really want to. There are lots of Willie Mullins also rans who might fill the county hurdle next year, but this is between the top two. The new line should have too much speed. Hopefully, Harry Skelton just doesn't give Final Demand too much rope.
Yeah, that's a very good point to be making. George, how do you see the Turners playing out?
I'll be in the Final Demand camp myself. A lot of people saying about him stepping up to Albert Bartlett. And that Nathaniel Lacey, 2 furlongs up to Albert Bartlett, whereas he'd have to step down 1 furlong for this. Like, it's not the sort of mad decision that was sort of made out to be for me. And the day before, was it when he ran over 2 miles in his hurdles debut, he was always making ground on the field. Like, he was out jumping them, he was out travelling them. I don't have any problem with him coming back in trip. I think some of the crabbing of New Lion was that he beat nothing, but like Wendigo did come out and win the next time. Like, it was reasonably good form.
He was 10 on,
problem. Yeah, but my main thing.
Although Patrick Mullins did just prove today that 10-1 on favourites are not necessarily solid morals. Gamble responsibly.
Not when you take on Gary Moore at Plumpton, they're not. No.
On the Moore yard. Go on the Moore. Take that, Mullins.
But yeah, the thing with the shallow hurdles, like there's 2 ways of looking at it. The reason they don't win at Cheltenham is because it's usually run on soft ground. And then at the festival you don't get soft ground. The other way of saying is just peaking too early in the season. Like, it's been a long time since December. Like, they have to drop it. Hard to do with like a novice who doesn't have that experience. But I just think he's going to be too good. Final Demand. If I was going to make an each way play, it'd be 6 Mile Bridge. Obviously, he beat Potter's Charm. Everyone sort of said he underperformed that day and everything, but he actually beat Bill Joyce 6.5 lengths further than New Lion did in the Shallow, and yet he's 5 times his price. Just like whether the other horse underperformed or not, it doesn't change the fact he performed to an RPR of 142 that day, and that's got to give him at least a place chance, isn't it?
I completely agree. Almost 100%. It's like you were looking at my notes. Final Demand's got everything for this race. Unbeaten over hurdles. He's got that mix of speed and jumping fluency and the stamina. The jump index of 8.7 from Limerick in December. That's the best in this race. That suggests he's gaining ground at his obstacles. The DRF, he was the only horse to finish with a finishing speed of over 100%, 102.52. His final 4 furlongs were 3 seconds quicker than any other horse. He's going to be right there, and he's got the tactical versatility for Townend to basically do whatever he wants, but probably just sit in off the pace. I think given Willie Mullins has got such an incredible record in this race, the day he won at the DRF, I thought this is the guy who's going to win the Turners. I'm not changing my mind. But 6 Mile Bridge is a really, really intriguing one, particularly at the price. He gains at his hurdles as well, particularly his last 3 starts. He's one of the most reliable jumpers in the race. If this does turn out into being a bit of a pace burn-up, he might be the one who benefits from it. So at a big price, I'll probably play a forecast of some kind. Final Demand is definitely the pick, though. Liam, how do you see this? Settle it for us. The new line for Adam. We're both with Final Demand. Who are you with?
Yeah, I'm caught in 2 minds, really, because I'm in agreement with Adam with regards to the new lion. I'm just not so sure that this kind of line or theory around speed winning this race, and it's suiting more of a champion hurdle type, really rings true when you look back through recent winners. They've actually turned out more to be stayers in time, the likes of Sam Crow, Sir Gerhard, well, he's tripless, isn't he, really, Sir Gerhard, but Impero Pass, Ballyburn, York Hill, MYLN, they've all obviously been intermediate to staying chasers, really, in the main. So I'm not really sure if speed does win the day. I know typically kind of a further year, that was the case for the likes of Faheen and the new one. I'm not somebody who'd be overly concerned with the Challow record in this race. I just think it's just a little bit of statistical error. And the fact that it was such good ground at Christmas round Newbury, I don't think it would have taken an awful lot out of him as it would have done in previous years for winners of that race. And obviously he won hard held, didn't he? So I'd probably come down on the side of him. And then I won't just regurgitate kind of what yourself and George have said around 6 Mile Bridge. I think the fact that he's the same price as Potter's Charm, given that he kicked him out of the way quite well at on Trials Day, I'd probably be looking at him as an each-way play, and probably wouldn't put anybody off back in one of the Willie Mullins improvers further down the market. Kiss Will was pretty impressive on debut. I think Willie had the first 6 home in this last year, did he, or something? So no doubt he'll have something, his 3rd or 4th string run into a place potentially as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point to be making as well. I think it's interesting that there's such positive word for 6 Mile Bridge, but it's a split about the new line and Final Demand. George and I, Final Demand, the new line for Adam and for Liam. It's going to be a fascinating race. Choose your fighter in the opening race. Who are we going to be siding with, though, in the second race, the Brown Advisory Novices Chase, where Ballyburn goes for back-to-back wins at Cheltenham? He's the 10-11 on favourite with Jeff Banks bet, or 11-10 on favourite. Would make more sense, wouldn't it? 10-11 about him. Dancing City, brilliant at the DRF last year. Great at Aintree and Punchestown. Beaten at Cheltenham. I wonder, is that a problem for him? 4-1. Better Days Ahead, who won the Martin Pipe last season. It's a race that tends to work out well. At 13-2. Gorgeous Tom, who Henry de Bromhead was pretty bullish about on the podcast a few days ago. And then Lecky Watson, Stellar Story, and Key to Bourbon, who'll be the ride of Patrick Mullins. Brown Advisory, Adam Mills, kick us off. Is Ballyburn a good thing?
I don't want to back Ballyburn odds on. I mean, to be honest, my biggest bet at Cheltenham was Croke Park for this race, and he's not here. So, It's been going swimmingly this morning with the bloody Wednesday decks, but there we go. So Croke Park's not here, but I'm going to stick. If Ballyburn wins at 10-11, fair enough, because the ground's drying out. That's kind of leaning me to think he was the best hurdler. The more it dries out, the more I'd favour him over Dancing City. I don't see what everyone else sees with Dancing City. He looks like a Tyestes horse to me, who just stays all day.
Yes.
And good ground, I can't have him. But I think there's a bit of recency bias in the market, and I think Gorgeous Tom is far too big. He does want good ground. He was a length behind Croke Park and Hartwood at Fairy House. Now, you can say what you want about the ride and the way he came late, but that's pretty rock-solid form, and he's 10-1, 12s in places. That's too big for me. I'd have preferred a bigger field. I think he'd be much better in a bigger field, but we might get away with it because you'd assume at least one of the Mullins pair will go forwards, or they might use Key to Bourbon as a sort of pace-making angle. So I think on the ground, Gorgeous Tom could come with a late run, but in all honesty, if Ballyburn wins, I'll just take my medicine.
I think that's fair. I think he might have this race broken by the halfway point. If anybody tries to go with him, they're going to struggle, in my opinion. Key to Bourbon was one that interested me in terms of then being able to pick up the pieces for Patrick. But actually, if he's forcing the pace, then you can forget about that very quickly. And there was a lot of very big confidence, I thought, from Henry de Bromhead about Gorgeous Tom as well. And he's been given a nice break after being kept on the go with a big run in the Galway Hurdle. Maybe that's a slight concern. Why are you running a horse that you're going for a grade 1 novice chase at Cheltenham with in the Galway Hurdle, but he's had his break. So an interesting one for sure, and he's a big price with Jeff Banks Bet, currently 10-1 if you like Adam's pick. George, for you?
Yeah, I think BALLYBURN. He'll stay when he's by Fleming's Firth out of an Old Vic mare. I don't have any concerns about him pulling too hard. Like he's not free, he's just strong, which isn't a problem in terms of him burning himself out. If his jumping was no good, he wouldn't have got to 3 out with Sergino at Kempton. I've just got there are no holes in him for me. I was a bit like Adam. I was sort of desperate to find a way to play the forecast. Then just went, Dancing City won't like the ground. Stellar Story won't like the ground. Better Days Ahead. Like it's not as though they won't like the ground. It's not ideal for them. So actually, Adam's convinced me there. I'd probably follow him in on maybe a small forecast on those two. It's the second show in a row he's taught me Rams and very sound logic. I'd very much like the Winter Fog to finish third in the Champion Hurdle logic as well. He's a very convincing man, Adam. So as long as they go in, that is obviously.
It also tends to be profitable when you follow Adam Mills too. So when Adam Mills speaks, you just have to listen, and he's talking about Gorgeous Tom at 10s. So he's convinced George. Has he convinced you? Has he convinced Liam?
Yeah, I'm going to give it the game and just subscribe to Adam's channel now and then.
Except no liability for losses whatsoever.
Is your Patreon just like 500 quid a day,
season,
Adam? We could just charge whatever we want for your Patreon.
Yeah. But no, I am in the Gorgeous Tom camp. I do think there's recency bias. He's rated 149, the same as Monbeg Park is. He kicked him out of the way by 5.5 lengths, and he was absolutely rattling home in that Drinmore. It was quite slowly run, but look, he was really competitive with horses, as Adam's mentioned, who's rated much higher, the likes of Hartwood. I do like some of the data, and especially some of the race IQ analysis that they do around some of the jumping. What I would say, if anybody has kind of big concerns around BALLYBURN, so we lost over 11 lengths to Croke Park at the Dublin Racing Festival, but it was kind of irrelevant because Croke Park didn't gain any ground, because as soon as he outjumped him at a fence, he was then kind of taken back to ensure that he got the trip. And therefore, whatever he was gaining over the obstacles, he was just giving back on the flat anyway. So there's nothing in here that's going to go forward as a dour lengths out of BALLYBURN, I don't think, from the front, which is a way in which you could get him beat. So given the fact that I don't think it's that much of an issue that he's just okay at getting from A to B, it does make it a little bit more difficult to take him on. But on the ground, I think that Gorgeous Tom, I think there's still a lot more improvement to come. And yeah, he's drifted from the last price I backed him, and I'll probably have a few more quid on before 2 o'clock on the Wednesday.
Just very briefly on race tactics, do you think that Paul Townend is going to go forward in BALLYBURN like he did at Cheltenham last year, and his stable companions, essentially Dancing City and Lecky Watson, are the only two that you'd be really concerned about going forward, and well, they can just get out of the way?
I would have thought so. Yeah, I imagine he'll, as you say, adopt similar tactics to last year. And yeah, I don't think Dancing City he has the gears either to make up that ground if Paul Townend does go forward on him. Like Adam, I think that he's a dour stayer, and he'll even lack the gears for this, especially on the ground.
Now, maybe we should be doing like some kind of racing blogger tactics where we have George going up to Jeff Banks and he's just like dropping 5 large and he's doing it for TikTok and then giving it the hoo-ha. That might get us 180,000 followers on social media. We could just do that stuff. But
I can, Emmet. Now I've got no card. It'll be all cash bets anyway.
Don't worry, Jeff will sort you out. Jeff will look after you.
I'll be walking around with actually, I shouldn't say that. I won't be walking around with bundles of cash at Cheltenham. Stay away from me.
Whatever you do, don't do a Peaky Blinders assault on George Gorman during Cheltenham. Protect that man at all costs. And please find whoever it is hacked his Uber Eats account and took his money. We've got to sort this out pretty quickly.
Yeah. Can I make a quick point on BALLYBURN's jumping index at Leopardstown as well? So to me, what happened the last day at Kempton, he had to let fly quite a few times there to stay with Sergino. And like Kempton, the fences they're big for English fences. Like they're nothing like Leopardstown. Leopardstown are big, solid mountains with big aprons on them. And have I frozen?
Nope, you're going strong.
I've completely frozen.
No,
it's completely gone.
Oh dear.
It's like, you haven't frozen, George. It's okay. Oh, God. I'm sure that was going to be an eloquent point. That was going to be absolutely fascinating. And we were all going to be in gravy, but we'll just... Oh, he's back. He has returned. For the record, George, you hadn't frozen. And now, yeah. Welcome back to Tech Talk here on the Final Furlong Podcast. We're talking about our crazy, kooky tech problems. Let's just move on.
I can hear you.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
Hey, George, are you live?
He's back.
Jesus Christ.
Can you hear us, George?
Oh, Jesus.
We're going to the Coral Cup. Whatever that point was, I'm afraid it's lost to the ether. All right. Somebody on the Final Furlong Podcast has been talking about a horse called Bunting and suggesting that this could be one of the best handicap bets of the entire week at the Cheltenham Festival. Step forward, Tony Bloom, who decides to go absolutely buck ape with a monster gamble. 20-1. Paul Townend confirmed to ride, cut to 12-1. Cut to 10-1. 8-1. Now challenging for favoritism. Bunting is 13-2 for the Coral Cup with Jeff Banks bet. So my question for you, Adam Mills, a man who knows French form like nobody else and talked about this horse in depth last year. How far does Bunting win the Coral Cup by?
To be honest, I wasn't aware that he'd finished the Triumph Hurdle yet, but apparently he has. 13-2 just seems... If I was on the gamble at 20s, I'd be ecstatic because Willie Mullins, Paul Townend booked. This looks like they've had this in mind for a while. And there's a suggestion that he's certainly, on that juvenile form last year is exceptional, so he might be well handicapped. It wouldn't be a bet for me. I'd yet to be convinced that good ground is the answer to this horse, but we'll see. For my part, I'm only going to have one bet in this race, and it's quite a strong fancy for Imposatoire. Been in an absolute love with this horse since he made his debut in an AQPS bumper at Samoa 3 years ago. And I think he's just been lined up for the Coral Cup. Nicky Henderson's stable tour said they had the Lanzarote hurdle was the be-all and end-all this year, and then that got called off twice, so they've come to the Coral Cup instead. But I'm very well handicapped. He's a really nice improver. I actually thought they might have gone chasing with him this year, but they decided to keep him over hurdles. 2.5 miles is what he wants. Good ground is what he wants. Got loads of speed. Nico de Boinville's been jocked up on this for about 7 days. So this looks like this has been their plan for some time. And I'll be really disappointed if he's not in the 5 because I think he's probably one of the best hurdlers in the field.
Whoa. Now that is a massive vote of confidence for Imposatoire for Nicky Henderson, who's got a cracking record in the Coral Cup. Conversely, Willie Mullins doesn't. 1 from 22, I think, off the top of my head. Nicky Henderson, on the other hand, has got a great record in this race. Funny how trends work. There were years where the trends boys would tell you Nicky Henderson's horses had no chance in this race, and then all of a sudden it became a positive to be a Nicky Henderson trained horse. So Liam Firkin, I'm now obliged to ask you, how far does Bunting or Imposatoire win the Coral Cup by?
We can make it the top 3 in the market. I think, like most, they kind of latched onto that Be Aware form from the Greatwood earlier in the season. So I've had a few quid at nicer prices, but that's not going to help anyone at this moment in time. So there's no point in really going on about that. I wouldn't part with my money at 5-1 now. He's a little bit short in such a competitive field. There's a couple in here that have caught my eye. Sandor Clegane, a bit of him over the last few days. Obviously, he's got some decent Cheltenham course form. So I'd probably be looking to play at a couple, perhaps at nice prices each way. So Sandor Clegane be one of them. Of course, he was second or third, wasn't he, in the Albert Bartlett? That form hasn't worked out incredibly well, but look, Stay Away Faye has obviously gone on to be a nice enough horse, albeit not some great form this season.
Corbett's Cross did well too, to be fair.
Say again, sorry.
Corbett's Cross did well too, to be fair.
Yes, he did. Yeah. It looked like winning, didn't he, before running out that year. One that I'm not sure what price he is with Jeff Banks, but Manila Missile for Evan Williams. He obviously does have some course form beating Captain Teague in the early part of last season, I think that will be. And obviously then he had a pretty long layoff. Look, he wouldn't fill you with confidence in terms of his recent form. 9th and then 2 letters as opposed to numbers alongside his name, where he's pulled up and then fell. but he's a course and distance winner. He's rated just 133. Captain Teague went on to finish the season as a novice hurdler, rated in the 140s, and obviously was a Grade 1 winner of the Challow. I wouldn't put anybody off just having a few quid speculatively. Him at a huge price. Evan Williams can certainly get one ready, as we've already seen the last few weeks. And this will be more up his street in terms of a trip. So I'll probably chance him at a huge price. And yeah, I'll take a second look at Sandor Clegane.
Industry best price, Jeff Banks bet goes Manila Missile 66-1. 66-1 about Manila Missile. One of interest for Liam Firkin. Sandor Clegane is a solid 20-1 shot. Paul Nolan's got an incredible record at Cheltenham when he brings his small but select team over, and that's got to be a massive point of confidence as well. If you like a 66-1 shot from Liam Firkin, then you can take full advantage of that right now with Jeff Banks Bet. JeffBanks.bet. Use the promo code FFP500. You're eligible for 10% back of any net losses after your first month of betting, up to £500. Hopefully there will be no net losses. Hopefully the gravy will be splashing left, right and centre, and we will all be booking flights to Dubai after this Cheltenham Festival, preferably if Bunting goes in the Coral Cup. But if it's a 66-1 shot, happy days as well. JeffBanks.bet. Use your promo code FFP500. Get on board now. All of us were complaining about other bookmakers before we started this show. All of us have had issues trying to get bets on. Hopefully, that's not the problem for you with Jeff Banks Bet. Sign up now, FFP500 at jeffbanks.bet. You can watch the entire Cheltenham Festival on the Jeff Banks website and on the Jeff Banks app as well. Loads of goodies there on the site for you too. George Gorman, tech issues resolved. Who's going to win the Coral Cup?
Yeah, sorry about that. That's never happened in that room before. I don't know what happened, but my main play in this for some while has been BALLYBURN. He was second in the Supreme, followed up 2 really good county hurdle runs with an excellent run off 147 in this race last year. He's only £4 higher, and he was beat that day by Langadan, which had a stone and a half in hand probably that day. So another £4. He's obviously added to that, and the Supreme. We know that this course suits him. The old course that is, and on his sole start this season, he won. He beat St Sam at Punchestown in December. His RPR of 150 for that matched his run in the Coral Cup last year. So at his age, sort of shows the fire still burning. His 10 runs off the back of breaks of 50 days or more have yielded 3 wins, 2 seconds, and 3 thirds. So it's no surprise he comes here fresh once again. I just think it's very unlikely. Well, we've heard about Bunting, but I don't think it's likely anything's going to be as well handicapped as Langadan. I think at 12-1, he'd be very hard to get out of the first 3 or 4. I'm also with Sandor Clegane as well, sort of sticking with the theme of Cheltenham Festival form. His 3rd in the Albert Bartlett and his 4th in the Brown Advisory were his record high RPRs of 150 and 152. So he just turns up at the festival, this horse. While soft ground would be ideal, like he's recorded his highest figures on testing ground, but all 3 of his career victories have come between yielding and yielding to soft. So it might not be quite as much of a problem as it's. Again, he's been campaigned over further recently, but his 3 career victories have come at 2 mile, 2 mile 4, and 2 mile 5.5. He might not have loads in hand, but I think he can definitely hit the frame. Certainly, I think his RPRs this season have seemed, where was it, in the Galmoy, he ran to 146 on RPRs, the highest of the season so far. Seems like he's building with each run towards something, and surely it's going to be the Cheltenham Festival again.
Price change. Bunting has gone 5-1 across the board. Sorry, George. That was all excellent. You're all wrong. The Tony Bloom cash is down. You were told weeks ago by me that Bunting was win the Coral Cup, and the money continues to flow. He'll go off favourite. It'll be one of the biggest gambles in the history of Cheltenham. All you have to do is kick back in the lounge chair and watch Paul Townend produce the good. Paul Townend riding a handicap. He might have won the Fred Winter the day before as well. Who knows? You can get 11-2 at least with Jeff Banks Bet. I think, I don't even want to say it, you can get 13-2 with Jeff Banks Bet about Bunting. He is 5-1 across the board, and Jeff Banks is going 13-2. Oh, act quickly. And if I throw a dog a bone, I don't want to know how it tastes. If this horse gets beaten, don't be pasting me. We put him up at a massive price earlier. Hopefully. Go on, Townend. Okay. Just to be more respectful, George, Ballyadam, absolutely very convincing case made for him, and Sandor Clegane as well. The boys really like those horses at big prices, and obviously big word made from Manila Missile and Impostois. I mean, there's some elaborate forecast trifecta there where we're all making absolute fortunes from the whole team. All right, cross-country chase. Stumptown is the strong 9-4 favourite. Galvin, a 9-2 shot. Really classy horse in his day. Bunting, Bustleton, I should mean. Bunting could win this too. Bustleton has been trained for the race all season, 7-1. And Mr. Coffee, the horse that Nico de Boinville is looking forward to riding more than any other horse, he said playfully on the Final Furlong podcast, is a 7-1 shot to break his duck and finally win over fences in the cross-country chase. I bet you can't wait for this, Adam. The cross-country handicap chase on day 2 of Cheltenham, the perfect lead-in to the 2-mile champion chase. Who's going to win?
Well, actually, I've been looking forward to this race for 5 months, thinking Isio Madrick is being absolutely lined up for this by David Cottan, and we're going to have it right off. Got up this morning and I thought, we'll be all right. 2 of these will come out. They won't all declare for the cross-country. Bollocks. It's the best answer to it, because they have, and he's a second reserve and he's not going to get a run. And the reason he's not going to get a run is because he unseated when they came here in December. He had an absolutely perfect prep run in a grade 3 at Ortoid 3 weeks ago. Finished 5th behind Cash Dam. He's thrown in. He's definitely going to win at cross country, but it's not going to be this year because he isn't going to get in. So I did have a look back at this race before it changed to a conditions race. And interestingly, in the 10 years before it was changed, it was always run on good to soft or good ground. And the winners carried 10 stone 8, 10 2, 10 13, 11 12, 10 stone, 10 9, 10 9, 10 5, 10 10, and only Balthazar King carried top weight to win. So I've been looking at the bottom of the handicap to see if there's anything that would be particularly thrown in. I was kind of hoping that no one else would talk about it, but unfortunately I should give some credit to Frank Hickey, who last week on his Paddy Power show put up Escaria 10, who actually ran really well in the race in December from out of the weights. He's trained by Martin Keeley, and if you go back 10 years, Martin Keeley was the go-to man for cross-country handicaps, any currency, back on the lash, has won around here a couple of times. I thought it was quite an eye-catching run last time. He's only got 10 stone 5 with James Best on board. He's probably a bit big. I think he's around about 33-1 shot. But if Isio Madrick, by some miracle, gets in, maybe 2 of Gordon's run away or something, I don't know. But if Isio Madrick could get in, then he would be my nap of Wednesday, but he's not going to get a run. So I'll just have a very small interest stake on Iscaria 10.
Okay. I hope 2 horses come out for you. I really do. It's been a long-term plan. I really hope it comes off you. And if it does, then that 11-1 is going to be very big as well. So maybe something can happen between now and then, and he gets a run. Here's hoping. George Gorman, your thoughts on the cross-country?
Yeah, I'm really strong on one here. I like Late Night Pass. He gets an £8 pull at the weights from Stumptown, having been beat 4 1/4 lengths last time out, obviously over this course and distance. Given their difference in prices, it makes him huge value. On the Cheltenham Cross Country course, he's been 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. He's just incredibly reliable, and at the weights, I think he'd certainly have a good chance of beating the favourite. Which, for me, is he 14 still, or is he 12s now? If you get 14 still, that's huge value. I was going to be with Conflated in this as well, and he hasn't declared. It's not fully fleshed out, but I'm thinking I'm probably going to play Chemical Energy each way as well.
Yes.
I think he's got 4 wins over hurdles and fences on good ground, and I think it's only a bumper he managed to win on anything worse than that. And was it back in October? He was 3rd in the Munster National on good ground, beaten only 5.5 lengths. Not sure what mark that was off. He was off 143. He comes here off 143. And all of his sort of less than spectacular form since has been unyielding, soft and heavy. So I think back on a sounder surface, he would have a chance for me.
Okay, I think the ground is ideal for Galvin. The weight, though, is a problem, particularly with what Adam Mills just said as well. But Jack Kennedy riding Galvin in the cross-country, having just come back from his 6th leg break and multiple injuries. And he's going to spin around the cross-country course at Cheltenham when he's got Tihupu to ride the next day. This fella could just win. And wouldn't it be a statement from Gordon Elliott as well? Are you going to change it into a handicap, are you? To stop me winning? Well, how about I win it anyway? Liam Firkin, cross country.
Well, I hope Gordon Elliott does win it, but not with that one. I quite like the Goffer. He ran in the December meeting over the cross country course, and he won the race, just to be honest. He was very much the back marker and was just given a bit of an educational ride around there. I tipped him, fully enough, that day. He was absolutely battered in the market. I think he went off about 7-1, and he was 66s the night before. So they're obviously expecting more of him, I assume, but he really started to get the hang of it towards the back end of the race, and from being tailed off, he stayed on to finish a kind of a never nearer 7th. But that was a decent enough prep run for me. He then had a spin round the cross country at Punchestown, and I think this has been the plan. He's finished 4th and 5th in successive Ultimas. He's now almost a stone lower in the handicap than when finishing a few lengths behind Corach Rambler. We know what he's gone on to do. He also came over on trials day. I think Gordon sent 3 across for a spin over the cross-country track for a bit more experience on one of the mornings in January. So I think this has been the aim all season. I can't believe he's still only 8 years old. I swear he's been at the game like longer than I've been born or something. He's been around forever. But yeah. So look, up a marker 138. Sean Bowen jocked up. I still think that he's probably a bit of value at around about the 20-1 mark, but you'd have to check Emmet in terms of what price Jeff Banks.
3-time winner from 10 starts and good to soft ground, placed as well. 4th in the Ultima off a mark of 149 down to 138. And the price with Jeff Banks bet currently is 20-1. Sold.
Yeah.
Sold to Liam Firkin, 20-1 about the gopher with Sean Bone. Fascinating jockey booking. Okay, let's talk about the feature race of the day, the Queen Mother Champion Chase, from the sublime to the ridiculous, or whatever way you want to put it. The bonkers scenes of the Queen Mother Champion Chase, which we're not going to care if we're getting a big priced winner, to then the speedy 2-milers. But is this the time that JONBON steps forward and gets it done? 6-4 on. Jeez. 6-4 on JONBON to finally win at the Cheltenham Festival. Marie Nationale, this would be a very emotional win after the Michael Sullivan Supreme Novice Hurdle on day one. Was the horse that he partnered to win the Supreme Novice Hurdle to go and win the Queen Mother Champion Chase, and the vibes are very, very strong about him. 5-1. Energumene, dual winner of this race, 7-1. Solness, 7-1. Miles behind JONBON in the Tinkle Creek, but a dual Grade 1 winner since. Found to 50-16s. Captain Guinness, the defending champion. Rachel Blackmore will ride, 25s. Liberty Hunter goes here instead of the Grand Annual, 33s. And Quilixios, second to JONBON in the Tingle Creek, is a 33-1 shot as well. Adam Mills, is now the time that JONBON gets his Cheltenham crown?
Yep. I can't see any chinks in his armour. I think people are trying to make a case that he's not a Cheltenham horse to sort of justify taking him on. Normally, this is the kind of favourite, especially in this race, that you'd think, I want to lay this. Odds-on favourites in this race have a terrible record, but it's just what are you going to take him on with? That the ground is completely against Energumene, and I can't see how Energumene wins this on good ground. I just think we know he's a soft ground horse. Marie Nationale, it would be an emotional victory, and that's also an emotional price. I think if you just looked at his bare form, and I really like Marie Nationale, and I think he gets some unfair criticism, but he doesn't win these Grade 1s. He runs well in them, and he might place, but he doesn't win them. And he's got work to do with Solness. I think Solness the O'Brien camp must be ecstatic, because there's no Ile Francais. There's no competition for the lead whatsoever. They're going to get the chance to roll on in front. But I think that also makes Nico's job easier, because he's got to look at the others and think, I hold all of you on form. I've only really got to make sure Solness doesn't get a soft lead. You've got to ignore Solness' run in the Tingle Creek, made a really bad mistake at the first, couldn't lead. That was that. Wasn't going to suit him. And quite frankly, if this race was at Ascot, JONBON would be 1-3. So anything left-handed is the only slight weakness. I think JONBON will win. I think there's a little bit of value to be found in the forecast market, because I think once Solness is headed, you'll see that he's probably not got a lot left. And I was looking for what might be ridden to come home quickly and pick up some pieces. Found a 50 would be one angle. I think he's a better horse than he's given credit to. His form at Navan earlier in the season is pretty good. And then the other one for the forecast would be Liberty Hunter. I thought Liberty Hunter was a good thing for the Grand Annual. and they've decided to come here, which is another frustrating anti-post I've got to stare at for another 48 hours. But he is good enough not to win, but he's good enough to be sort of ridden in mid-division and to come late. And I thought he might come past a few of these. The only horse I fear for JONBON, but there's enough evidence from Marine Nationale that he does everything on one breath. And while he places, he doesn't win. So I just think he's far too short, because there's a lot of people, including me, who'd like to see him win for Michael O'Sullivan rather than on actual form. But in all honesty, if JONBON by some miracle drifts to evens, I will be filling up, because I think that's a gift.
Yeah, I was fascinated by how Nico de Boinville reacted to the point I was making about, like, Aidan Coleman has said it on the Final Furlong podcast, but he said it on various different Cheltenham previews in the lead up, that he just doesn't think he's the same horse at Cheltenham. And Nico's just dismissive of that. It's like, okay, that's fine. I don't agree. The confidence is high. They're adamant he wasn't right in the Arkle when El Fabiolo beat him. Even if that's not the case, El Fabiolo was an elite novice who just didn't go on for whatever reason. That happens sometimes. He'll be aggressively ridden, and he's going to have a massive chance. He has to have a massive chance. I thought Found to 50 was really interesting, 3 from 3 after a break of 60 days or more. So coming into this fresh after a layoff, that's going to help him, for all that he was disappointing the last day. But that was a silly race. I wouldn't worry too much about it. And Quilixius, I think, is an interesting one to stay on past beaten horses as well. Just a very quick one, Adam, on an Ergamine. If you look at the Racing Post PDF, good to soft ground, he's 4 from 4. That requires context. Good to yielding is not necessarily the same as good to soft. Good to yielding in Ireland is not the same as good to soft in the UK. And you actually go down through his form, it's not really good to soft. So why is it saying 4 from 4 good to soft?
Well, just the way people interpret form and ground. But I mean, you also have to look at the context of, Energumene is a dual champion chaseman. He's a fantastic Grade 1 horse. I mean, that race against Shishkin is the best race I've seen. That was unbelievable. But I would question, when Energumene wins on ground like that, does he win against JONBON? No.
Yeah.
We saw him run against JONBON on good ground in January, and JONBON kicked him out of the way. And his run was, in my view, I'd imagine, right, if JONBON wasn't in that, Energumene beat an aging and regressive Edwardstone by a couple of lengths. That is not champion chase form. And while I have huge respect for Energumene, if Energumene something's gone wrong, Solness should be better than Energumene. JONBON is definitely better than Energumene. Yeah, Marine Nationale is kind of a little bit of an enigma, but you'd think Marine Nationale might probably be better than Energumene on this ground, and the rest are running for place money.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I would maybe counter Ascot with saying his only defeats over fences have come in the Clarence House, and that's just not his race. For whatever reason, he gets beaten in that race, then goes to Cheltenham and improves, and he's brilliant at this track. But he's 11. He did beat the horse who went on to win the King George, or at least he was alongside him when Banbridge falls, and then Dino Blue's come out and won since as well. So there's ways of spinning it, but it's getting very, very difficult to oppose JONBON, George.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be looking to outright sort of take him on. I think you can stick him in your multiples and things like that. I do think Solness is still a solid each way choice. Now there's 3 places, but I'll be looking more sort of, small each way, and then maybe like a third of the stake win, 2/3 of the stake place. So I do think there's a chance he can hang on to third if he's headed by JONBON or even second. What I do really like though, and I was laughed at last year when I put him up at the same price, but Captain Guinness, he won't beat JONBON, but he comes off the back of 2 disappointing runs at Leopardstown, same as he did last year. In fact, the closest he's ever come into winning a race at Leopardstown is 11 lengths. He hates the place, absolutely hates it. Meanwhile, his Cheltenham Festival, his Cheltenham record, because I think it includes the Schlur, is brought down 3rd, 2nd, 1st. All of which, they're all on the festival and they're all on the old course. The last 3 being over fences over this distance. He turns up form every year, and as the defending champion, I think he has a place chance. But no more than that. Maybe I would out of out of solidarity with a horse who's done me a solid, maybe I would have a small each way on him, but the majority of it will be place only.
He's a 10-year-old who I can't imagine is going to be actually ridden to win the race because they know that he can't. But he shook up Banbridge and Punchestown last year, so there's every reason to think that he could.
And Rachel's picked him.
Yeah.
Rachel's picked him.
And she didn't pick him at the DRF.
No.
I thought that was interesting as well. Liam?
Yeah, I'd like to be able to provide some sort of insight for some sort of play at bigger prices, but as much as I want to take JONBON, I'm probably for the same reasons that people are just manufacturing in their own minds, like Adam suggested around his course form. When you actually look into it, he's been beat by Constitution Hill and El Fabiola. It's not too bad going, is it? And obviously he made that terrible mistake when Nico wasn't on board and was beaten by Elixir de Nuts. But there's nothing I fancy enough, to be honest, Emmet, to be able to put it up with any sort of confidence. I could make a case for Liberty Hunter. Adam's already done so, to potentially run into a place. And it's quite eye-catching the last day. But yeah, I think potentially it's a price I wouldn't play at. I'll probably just sit back and watch this one and enjoy it. But yeah, I imagine that JONBON wins. And finally, JP wins this race.
Yes, that's a very good point. He's never won the Queen Mother Champion Chase, but he's got a fantastic chance to do it now. Defi Desoy was turned over at 5-2 on. Can JONBON be the one to do it? I think he will. I think he's going to win. And I'd be pretty bullish about it as well at this point. Okay, the Debenhams, Johnny Henderson Grand Annual Challenge Cup. There's a lot of things to be negative about in racing, but the fact that Debenhams have come in to sponsor racing is actually a really, really good thing, and hopefully it'll lead to more big brands coming along and sponsoring big horse racing events. The Debenhams Grand Annual, the favourite is My Mate Mozzie, 6-1 for the Gavin Cromwell team. Unexpected Party, won it last year for the Skeletons, is also 6-1, price change. King of PRS, 7s, Jazzy Matty, 8-1. He's been talked up by Dennis O'Regan quite a bit. Friend of the show, Dennis O'Regan. He was a double figure price. He's now 8s, and So Scottish, clearly a plot horse, 9-1, first run after a wind up. Adam Mills, where is the most likely plot angle or big price swing in the Grand Annual, or is there just something simple we can just take a wild swing at?
Well, I think this is quite simple. I mean, Jazzy Matty, I can definitely see the case for. Kean Collins is really one of the trainers. Keep an eye on this boy can train. Jazzy Matty's won at the festival already. You know, he got a brilliant ride that day from Michael O'Sullivan in the Boodle, which is absolutely brilliant. But there is a case here that this is a well-handicapped horse in a handicap chase of 135. He's got experience at the track. Thought his hurdles run was good. I could see the case for him, but I am a firm believer in the Dan Skelton Pepto-Bismol diet. And I just have been watching Unexpected entire season. This horse, they just lined this up. They just lined it up. He's been running in races he can't possibly win. And he's just been grandly plotting around, picking up prize money, not doing anything. Finished second last time. To my eye, that was just, we still think he's well handicapped on 144. He's won the race before. He's got a good record. And every year I think to myself that there's going to be certain yards that just line these things up. And this is one the Skeltons have lined up. I can see why people like My Mate Mozzie, but I think My Mate Mozzie is an incredibly difficult ride. And if you back horses like that at short prices, you end up getting Jamie Spencer syndrome where you're constantly finishing second and being frustrated. So I will stick with the obvious Dan Skelton plan. And I think if I can get 5-1 or bigger, Unexpected Party is a very fair price.
Ooh, you can get 6-1 with Jeff Banks Bet right now. JeffBanks.bet. Use your promo code FFP500. Get 10% of any net losses back up to £500 after your first month of betting. But again, hopefully, that's not going to be a problem. George Gorman, your thoughts on the Grand Annual?
Yeah, I'm with Unexpected Party as well. Like, he was £6 lower last year, but given the second horse now £12 higher, it's sort of reasonable to assume he had more than £12 in hand that day. So being £6 higher isn't going to be a problem. Mentioned he ran a couple of graded chases to get his mark down. But actually, in his 2 attempts in lesser company, he sort of ran all right. And was it in the graduation chase at Carlisle? He's beaten a length by Nell's Son, who was rated £8 lower than him on the day, but will go on to achieve a rating of 149 when he beat Matata at Kelso. Matata then beat Unexpected Party at Windsor, beating him 10 lengths, giving away £10. But like, Windsor really favours front runners. There's no way of like going, well, that means he's a £20 worse horse. He rated 161, but and went on to finish 2 lengths third in the Game of Spirit. I think it's simple. Festival form is very important at Cheltenham. Last year's winner remains on a workable mark. He's shown his well-being this season, and it's just about, you could even back him each way if you were so inclined. At 6-1 or even 7s, I think might still be around. The one at slightly bigger price really interested me was Dancing on My Own. He's only been seen once since the summer when he finished 3rd, beaten 5 3/4 lengths over this course and distance with 12 stone on his back in October. That was a big effort. Like, he was off a mark £1 higher than he'll run off here, and he earned an RPR of 158 in doing so, his second highest ever. That was behind the 159 he achieved when winning a handicap over this course and distance off 151 in October 23. Basically, in 3 attempts he's had over course and distance, he's produced 2 career bests, which were rated £5 above his Red Rum Chase victory in 2023. The only other time he ran over this course and distance back in 2022 when he had the first time tongue tie on, which I'd say means he was starting to make a noise, and he probably had surgery that we obviously don't know about because he's Irish. But I can see him running a big race, sort of with the extra places now at 20-1.
Liam, are you going to make it 3 for Unexpected Party?
I'm not, but my bet of the week is in this race. I don't mean to piss on the parade of Adam and George with Unexpected Party, but from the last 12 winners, 9 have come back the following year and ran in the Grand Annual. They're 0 from 9. Managed 1 place between them. You could probably apply context to that as to whether all of those 9 have been campaigned as well as Unexpected Party has this year to have another tilt at it. You don't know. They might have been going back £10 higher, each of them. But yeah, just a stat that I saw the other day I thought was quite interesting. But no, Dennis O'Regan's mentioned him. I snuck into a breakfast morning preview at the Dublin Racing Festival where he was on the panel. He was already on my radar, Jazzy Matty. He'd had 6 chase starts, so I thought there was obviously potentially 3 or 4 avenues he could go down. He was asked by Dave Jennings for 1 horse to follow for the rest of the season, and straight away he said Jazzy Matty. He then said he will go the Grand Annual, but then kind of backtracked as if he'd said a little bit too much. At that point, I stood up, ran out the room, loaded up my betting app of choice, and started backing him. So my fridge magnets on my fridge are not for shopping lists; they're for Jazzy Matty betting slips. That is all that they're being used for. I still think he's decent value as an each way price now. You look back through his form, he gave away half a stone to Path de Rue over course and distance, where he was beaten a short head. He's now rated in the mid 140s. Jazzy Matty's off 135. He's got form that ties in with Gorgeous Tom again, giving him beaten around about 7 lengths. Obviously that form's worked out particularly well, and I quite fancy him for the Brown Advisory. I'm very, very sweet on Jazzy Matty, and anyone who will listen, I've been banging on about him for a good few months.
Yeah, that head defeat to Pat de Rue is key. He was giving him weight that day, as you say. 11 stone 12. Pat de Rue was on 11 stone 4, and Pat de Rue had placed in this race, the previous festival.
The only thing about that concerned me is Pat de Rue does not like finishing with his head in front.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you on that, but
then if you were getting ready for a Grand Annual, you probably wouldn't want your head in front either.
Oh, thank you, George. You might say that. I couldn't possibly comment.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah. How do I? Yeah, 8-1. 8-1. I think we'll get bigger on the morning. I'm not sure. I'm not. Yeah, we might get 10-1 in the morning. Swing. My shortlist for this race was Unexpected Party, Jazzy Matty, So Scottish. Just come on.
There's the TriCast.
I had American Mike in it as well.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, he's got the course form. You're taking on Factifile a year ago. Now you're coming back into a handicap. Now Jack is going to ride. And third time lucky, that's an Aidan O'Hara one. He's definitely got the capability. He placed in this race not so long ago for the Skeletons. He's now with Fergal O'Brien. They paid 190 grand for him in 2023 for an aging chaser. I think we can work out why you're doing that. It's because you're going to swing for a big handicap, and now you're coming to this. When Aidan O'Hara put him up, he was 66-1. Yeah, I actually think Jeff was 100s at the time. You're not getting that now, but on the day you might get a bigger price than currently available, 25-1. I would hold the line, hold Mad Tough, wait for the whites of the bookmaker's eyes, and then strike. Jazzy Matty and third time lucky are my picks as things stand. All right, price change for the champion bumper. Patrick Mullins confirmed to ride Copacabana horse who Ruby Walsh put up as his nap of the meeting at the Venator Cheltenham Festival preview. Then that week, Game of Inches comes out and bolts up. I was there at Punchestown, won very, very easily. Paul Townend is going to ride him. He was never touched by Patrick Mullins, and yet it took him all the way down the back straight to pull him up. I like that. But Patrick chooses Copacabana. Bambino Fever, again for the Mullins camp, is a 6-1 shot. Winner at the Dublin Racing Festival. She beat a horse called Champagne Venture by 8 lengths on her debut on New Year's Eve. Aquaforce on her racecourse debut beat that horse by 28 lengths. Could improve for second start and the switch to Willie Mullins and the switch to Mark Walsh taking over. Who knows how good she could be. She's a 10s shot. And Calypso Chance, who has been trained for the race, has the additional experience of 2 runs and won a listed race that Gordon Elliott has won with some very, very talented bumper horses in years gone by, including Envoy Len, who would go on to win the champion bumper. Not for him, but still, was it Sir Gerard? Sir Gerard. That horse is a 6-1 shot with Jeff Banks bet as well. The champion bumper, Adam Mills.
I don't like either of the Mullins 2 at the head of the market. I think Game of Inches, it's a strange thing to say, but I think he's too big to win a champion bumper. He looks like he's just this massive 3-mile staying chasing prospect, and be a little bit concerned. Copacabana obviously was very impressive at Navan, but I just think there's a bit of value in this market. There's this assumption that these 2 have already sort of supreme and turn as winners of next season. I'm not entirely sold. I really like Aquaforce. Any horse that wins a bumper at Gorman by 28 lengths has got to be off. Now, the horses in behind probably weren't up to much, but it doesn't matter because they've been beaten a furlong. And let's face it, if they were good horses behind Aquaforce, bloody hell, what is this thing? If it's beaten good horses by 28 lengths. So that would certainly interest me, but I'm going to follow my gut. And I had an anti-post bet on this race in January on a horse of Gordon's called He Can't Dance. And at the time, he was second or third in the betting. I took 16s and he's now 33s, which shows what a shrewd judge I am. But I actually would forgive his run in the Grade 2 at Leopardstown. He finished third that day, but the winner and second both came from rear. I think he just did too much. I mean, he finished in front of Cocktail Brute. Cocktail Brute was the anti-post favourite for this at Christmas. I don't think He Can't Dance has done an awful lot wrong, and yet he's now a 33-1 shot, despite the fact he's placed in one of the strongest bumpers so far this year. I'm just going to have to stick with that because I was really impressed with his debut win. And at 33s, even though we're not the stable's first string, I think he's worth a go. So I'll probably play He Can't Dance each way, and I'll have a small save on Aquaforce because she could be anything.
George.
Yeah, I'm been with Calypso Chance for this for quite a while. As sort of my main play. Like, he made a huge visual impression when he won by 15 lengths on racecourse debut at Punchestown over 2-1. When he followed up at Navan, he won that listed bumper. It was a small field, but he beat 4 previous winners. I was impressed by his size and his speed on both occasions. He reminds me quite a lot of that De Bromhead horse Notebook. In terms of he looks too big to be as quick as he is, but he's definitely all about speed. Having said that, he's a point-to-point winner, so that gives you sort of thought that he should stay on up the hill. He's open to loads of improvement still, and I really like him. Other play in the race is one I've been waiting for nearly 24 hours now to talk about from when we were talking on yesterday's show. El Kairos.
Yes.
David Maxwell.
Yes, George. Tell me more.
This horse, he won by 6.5 lengths on racecourse debut at Newbury. He beat the third 8 lengths, who was subsequently beaten the neck at Huntingdon. I think the 5th won a couple of weeks ago. God, I can't remember where it was, but it won a couple of starts later anyway. The RPR is nonsense. He won as easy as he wanted. Like, you have to watch it back. You have to watch this horse explode away from the field. As Adam was saying yesterday, David Maxwell's been riding much better this year. I think with some very simple instructions like this. I tell you what I know. What I know is I've never seen a bumper horse do the things that he does on our gallops. This horse is an absolute machine. And if he...
Pause the recording, Emmet. I need to place a bet.
Yeah, pause. Trish, cut that out. We're going to have a scumbag gamble here. Cut that out. The Final Furlong Podcast posse have to hear everything here. Let's go.
Look, he's got bags of speed. Like, and we might come to this point next year. Like, I think it was mentioned about saving him for next year, and you go, well, no, he's here. He's got a massive engine. He's got loads of speed. Run him here, because next year he might not be able to jump a hurdle, and then it'll all be done. Like, even though I think he's won a point to point. Yeah, he has won a point to point, so he probably should. But like, this horse is working with 140 rated handicappers and kicking them out the way. Like, they can't even get him off, like, near off the bridle. Like, he's an absolute machine. And look, it might be a totally different thing when you come up against these well-bred horses when he comes to Cheltenham, like proper, real out-and-out quality horses. But God, he's got speed. I'd be disappointed if he was out of the first 5.
You had a horse in the first 5 behind Facile Vega a few years ago, didn't you? Was it Authorized Speed?
Yes. Oh, he was 5th. We're not known for bumper horses, but we do have the odd, like, he was, Authorized Speed was 5th in it. Megastar won the Aintree bumper. We have a nice one now and again. And like this, obviously David Maxwell buys his own horses. So this is one that he's found rather than found where we don't tend to have the bumper horses. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's, I really, really like him. And I've checked today, because me and Adam were both keen on indoor yesterday. A £2 each way double on indoor and El Kairos pays about $3,000.
David Maxwell, top jockey at Cheltenham without Paul Townend. What's the gamble? What's the price? Jeff Banks, price it up for us.
David Maxwell.
Betting without Paul Townend.
Someone will have priced that up for sure. Someone will have priced that up as a laugh. David Maxwell for top jockey. Go on, we've got to get.
Could be top British. Could be top British jockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could very easily.
Imagine if he beats Nico for top British jockey. It'd be some crack.
But this is, I would say this. Obviously, like Keelan's out there, right? Keelan Quinn's out there riding against these horses every day. He knows indoor well. He rides El Kairos most days. And I spoke to him about it this morning. I said, "That's not a mad bet." And he went, "No, it's really not. Like, both horses should be half the price they are. It's just the fact that I think you get an extra 10-15% on the price on a regular day when Maxwell's riding them. I think when it comes to the Cheltenham Festival, you get an extra 50% on your price." Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Just to back it up, because I'm sure people are listening and watching going, "Oh, come on, George. Like, you're just talking this horse up because you're connected to him and you see him every day and you're getting all excited. These are the Willie Mullins and Gordon Elliott bandwagon. They had the first 7 or 8 home last year. Come on, man." The race IQ data for your horse, he hit a top speed of 37.84 miles per hour. To quote Paige Fuller, rapid. And he covered the last
faster than
2...
Final Demand did in Nathaniel Lacey, I believe.
And he covered 2 of the last 3 furlongs in 12.15 and 12.03 seconds. This is a fast horse. And as you started talking, Adam Mills started nodding along. Do you have anything to add, Adam?
No. It's certainly, if you were to rank these horses by the speed they've achieved, he's right up there. And as George said, you just get a price. And as you saw on Saturday, David Maxwell can ride. And the bumper's another race where you need patience. Far too many jockeys get to the top of that hill where they get jiggy and they're like, "Oh, here we go." Whereas David will just be, "I just want to finish the race." That's all he wants to do. He's very well coached. Every ride is the same. Gets to 3-4 furlongs out, sees what he's got left, and then he'll start nudging. Because with the greatest respect to David, he can't drive a horse for 7 furlongs. So he's got to sit still, but that'll play into his strengths. The David Maxwell Lucky is looking like it might be retirement fund.
Yes.
Who else? Who is the other 2 for this? We've got Hador, we've got El Kairos. Now we have to back this horse. I mean, this is just crazy. If you've listened to everything that George has just said, and then you go, "Oh, leave it off," I don't really know what to say to you. Who are the other 2 we're putting in with him?
Don't know. Has he got anything else? Nothing that I've looked too closely at.
We'll figure out too. I'll tell you, just
go to Liam and I'll come back to you.
Yeah. Okay, Liam, if you put up El Kairos, this is just going to be insane stuff.
He's just got the 2, I'm afraid, at the minute.
No, that was brilliant to listen to be honest, from George. I'll certainly be parting with a few quid on him, 100%. I'm in a similar boat to Adam with Aqua Force. I know that people will suggest that perhaps fillies, mares don't have a great record in this race, but imagine if you actually look at percentage of runners that are obviously a mare or fillies versus the boys. I imagine that their win rate's actually probably pretty good. Obviously, Fiona and Relegate have won this. In more recent years, obviously the Geldings have come to the fore. But if there's one good enough getting that £7 allowance, then I'm more than happy to take a swing. So I'll chance Aqua Force, and I'll certainly be following in on Mr. Maxwell's horse after George's brilliant soliloquy.
Okay, the excellent Weatherby's Cheltenham Festival betting guide, which if you haven't got your hands on it yet, you can still get it now. Listen back to the former episodes with Paul Ferguson. You'll get the promo code there. I think it's Cheltenham Festival betting guide. Cheltenham Festival betting guide 25 FFP or something like that, or FFP 2. Listen back, you'll get the promo code. You get £5 off. But to give you a little bit of a hint, 9 of the last 16 winners were in the top 2 according to the official BHA ratings. So the BHA handicapper's got a really good record in this. Bambino Fever's on 130, same as Calypso Chance. Aquaforce is clear second on 127. One run, 127. You're getting 10 to 1. I was there. It was a monstrosity of a performance, and people could scarcely believe it given the trainer. Switch to Willie Mullins. Let's see how it goes. Okay. Do we find any other horses that Maxwell's involved with, or is it just the 2 he's jocked up on?
He's only jocked up on 2.
Yeah, how has no one booked him for a ride in the Kinmure?
That's insane, by the way. That actually is insane that he's not going to be riding in the Kinmure. Unless something develops in the next while. So he's got... that horse has got no chance on the county hurdle. Yeah, okay. All right, so the double then. We're doing some kind of an elaborate 33 to 1, 25 to 1 double on indoor in the National Chase and El Carrios. That horse has got to be backed for the champion bumper. I'm with Aquaforce as well. I thought that was a massive performance. The ground is a slight concern for me with Copacabana and with Game of Inches. I like both. This is proper good to soft ground. The hype about Copacabana is very, very real, and the fact that Patrick has chosen him is really intriguing. I would have a concern about the ground for him. I would definitely have a concern. I would prefer a Game of Inches on the ground, but I agree with Adam. I think he's a Brown advisory horse for next season, and maybe we should be looking at an angle to back him anti-post for that race now. He can be staying on one.
Sorry to interrupt, Emmet. With Game of Inches, I'm not sure if anybody else felt the same. I thought it was very reminiscent of Kilcroot when he won his race leading up to the bumper, kind of just stealthily moving through the race, came there hard on the bridle. I know he went on to finish second, so obviously it's not a horrendous comparison to make if you do fancy him. But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. It was almost as if I was watching that same race back from a few years ago.
Yeah, it was a really impressive performance, and the horse he's beaten, what was the name of him again? Bragora Man. He'd made his hurdling debut behind Kopek de Boards and then gets switched back into a bumper for Gavin Cromwell. He was well backed on the day as well. There seems to be a bit of confidence behind him. Game of Inches just laughed at him. He laughed at him. Mullins never moved on the horse, and he still took an age to pull him up. So if he's come out of that race okay, he could be a machine. Townend is not exactly a bad booking either, thankfully. But I find it difficult to get away from Aquaforce, and it's the price. Aquaforce is 10s, and I'm definitely following George Gorman in. 25 to 1. I think we're getting even bigger with 25 to 1 El Carrios with Jeff Banks bet.
It'll probably be bigger on the day, to be honest. No, because no one's going to...
Not after this, he won't.
By David. Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
It'll be 7 to 4.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just behind.
Maxwell come and absolutely abuse me. So how have you put me on the favourite in the champion bumper?
We're just behind that pesky Paddy Power in the podcast charts. If the Final Furlong Podcast army could just hit the download button just a little bit more, we'll catch that pesky Paddy Power. But the army is out there. You're all listening, and hopefully you drive his price down. But if we all hold my tough, if we keep our calm, don't overreact now, and let the bookies send them out in the morning, then yeah, we can get 33s. The other horse I thought was interesting was the Danny Mullins ridden one. Just because, again, it's an Aidan O'Hara point about Willie Mullins outsiders in this race, and Willie Mullins excels with the progeny of authorised at Cheltenham. He's got Saturdo, who was second at Leopardstown at Christmas and then second at the DRF. But I thought that run was better than it looked, and 25 to 1 for a horse that could be finishing in the first 5 with bookmakers offering those odds on the day. He might go off to a massive price of like 66s, 80s, but just be completely discarded, and he'll be doing his best work towards the end and could manage getting a place for you. With those bookies, he'll be paying extra places. Keep an eye out on him. But Aquaforce, main pick, and we're following in George blind, and it's his fault if it goes wrong. Okay, best bets, and let's try and do a lucky 15. So we'll get We'll get one pick at least from everybody for a Lucky 15. So your most confident bet on the day and your biggest price bet that you're most confident about on the day, if that makes sense. Adam Mills, your nap and your big price swing.
The nap is Imposatoire in the Coral Cup, and the big price swing would be in the bumper. He Can't Dance.
Okay, I like it. Liam.
It would be Jazzy Matty for me. Hopefully that doesn't clash with George's best bet. And at a big price, I'll stick with the one mentioned in the Coral Cup, Manila Missile at 66-1 with Jeff Banks' bet.
Okay. George.
I think the nap will have to be Final Demand. She's out to 9-4 now, I think. And the big price one's got to be El Kairos, doesn't it?
Yeah, that kind of screws me then. So I'll go BALLYBURN as the nap. Jesus Christ. And I really kind of want to do Bunting as the nap, actually. No, Bunting's the nap. Screw it. Screw you, Adam. Bunting's the nap. And who are we doing at a big price? Oh, somebody made a very strong mention for the gopher. I'll just steal that. Thanks very much, because that was a compelling case. Thank you very much, Liam. Outstanding stuff. We'll go with that one. Okay, if we were doing a Lucky 15, we were all in agreement on a couple of races. So, Adam, do you want to lead that off?
As I know, Emmet, that you're dying to have Bunting, then I'll step aside in the Coral Cup. Even though you'll finish second, I'll step aside my feelings on Paul Townend and finish second. But I will go instead with Gorgeous Tom in the Brown Advisory.
Okay. George?
We'll go Late Night Pass in the cross country.
Liam?
The two races. I thought, well, that race is gone. I'll do the cross country. Jazzy Matty in the Grand Annual.
Bunting. Late Night Pass, Jazzy Matty, Bunting. Adam?
Gorgeous Tom.
Gorgeous Tom. There we go. We make a fortune. We make an absolute fortune of that. Right. Thank you so much to everybody for watching and listening to this episode of the Final Furlong Podcast. If you're looking to get your bets on for Cheltenham, jeffbanks.bet. Use your promo code FFP500. Sign up now to take full advantage of all the big prices that are on offer, the juicy offers that will be made available to you as well, and the ability to actually place a bet. That's kind of handy for Cheltenham. jeffbanks.bet. Use your promo code FFP500. Get 10% of any net losses back after your first month of betting, up to £500. And the best of luck for Cheltenham Day 2. A huge thank you to Liam Firkin, to George Gorman, Adam Mills, and to you for watching and listening to this episode of the show. I really hope you've enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to record. We're back for Day 3 tomorrow on the Final Furlong Podcast. Until then, look after yourself and each other. God bless.
The Final Furlong Podcast is proudly brought to you by Jeff Banks Bet. Get up to £500 refunded as real money for new Jeff Banks online accounts after your first month of betting. Use promo code FFP500 at jeffbanks.bet.